Welcome to the show.
Yeah.
No, too much hype.
I might
Matrix
add like a
glitched for a
meow
second.
in there.
Okay,
Hello.
so for today, I am drinking Rain has a new flavor. It's been a minute, Rain. It's been a minute. So finally, Rain has a new flavor, and it is called White Haze. And that just sounds super appropriate for one of the topics that I'm going to have today. And I'll tease it a little bit. And just...
I already teased mine. Neither of you heard it, so.
Oh, sorry.
No, you're fine.
I'm going to tease mine just a little bit, just to keep you listening to all the way till the end.
In the ancient days of giants, when the earth was wild and free, a creature roamed the valleys, cloaked in mystery. Is he born of angels' blood and man, a Nephilim so tall, or a shadow of the fallen, yet heeding the Maker's call? He's a biblically accurate Bigfoot, with a lineage from the skies. Not a myth or legend, but a truth that never dies. Is he a remnant of the Nephilim, a titan standing tall? Or does he have the word of God upon him, the last to hear the call?
We very briefly talked about the Manson family. And while doing some research, I have had this nagging itch about the Manson family that just hasn't been scratched. This unknown this unknown question that just hasn't been answered, and it has annoyed me for a while and eluded me. And I finally got to the point where I finally scratched that itch through my research today.
Wow. Today?
Well,
just today.
as
For
I
today.
finished
For
up,
today.
for today.
Okay.
And so I'm excited about this one.
Nice.
But anyway, so
I don't think you guys know
White
what I have
Haze. Phil was telling me about his, and I have no clue either. So this is gonna be a fun episode.
Oh my gosh.
I'm in the dark about all these. So anyway, White Haze. I'm gonna open it for the ASMR crowd that actually likes this. By the way, I gotta say this does sound a lot better in front of the mic. Oh, that sounds so good. It's amazing. Anyway, all right.
Wow. I already opened mine, and it tried to explode all over me because the clear American sparkling waters have been so overcarbonated. I thought it was just us. I thought it was our son, shaking up the cans and
yeah.
stuff, but no.
Do you remember the kind of like a good version of the White Frost Gatorade? Mm-hmm. This tastes like it's like a good version of that. Like it tastes
Nice.
better than it. It's really good. It does not taste
think
like
White
the.
Frost.
It's really good. That might be one of my go-tos.
Nice.
All right. Well,
Great.
to tease today. Oh, actually, not to tease today. Something I did want to talk about. It's a little bit heavier to kind of get started. Mm-hmm. I just wanted to take a second and bring to light something that happened that I feel like media is not sharing about and not covering really well. Misportraying all kinds of stuff. And it's frustrating because the media is talking about all of these planes that have wrecked, which I've done some research and talked to one of our Discord buddies, and it's confirmed. There's actually been significantly less plane crashes this year.
Okay.
Significantly less plane crashes this year than there was a year ago. And overall, plane crashes have been on a downward trend since 2000. And so them talking about plane crashes over and over and over again is
That's what I was saying,
they're talking
guys.
about something and we don't, and it's
What is that called? Is it called like reporter bias or something like that? Like
I
I
think
can't remember. There's a term for it, but
in the conspiracy theories, it's called a distraction.
well, I mean, there's a more
I know there is, but
scholarly term for it. But
but in the conspiracy world, it's called the distraction.
so you admit you're not scholarly.
No, that's never been in question. I don't think in this room.
For one, those aren't mutually exclusive. I don't think. I don't know.
I have never claimed to be scholarly, ever. I struggle, and we've made this joke before. I struggle with what a noun is. So, to back to what I was talking about.
I was going to say that really made you guys stumble. Okay, go ahead.
Keeping it a little more serious.
Yeah.
Do want to talk about it. There was an incident in the
Democratic Republic of Congo.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Speaking of not being scholarly, I can never pronounce that.
We say DRC for short.
Yeah.
Because we
In
know
the
people
DRC.
from the
dirt?
DRC.
Yeah. There was a massive massacre, and the Allied Democratic Forces, which is affiliated with the Islamic State, went in and massacred 70 Protestant church members and just, what's the term we're using now?
Deleted.
Yeah, but
viciously deleted 70 Protestant Christians, and then just stacked their bodies inside of their church,
dismembered and
it
was discovered like that. Oh wow, there's 70 people in here who have literally lost their heads,
and it included women, children, all of the above.
Yeah,
and Courtney, we had a little bit of a tense moment yesterday because I've been kind of brutal with just kind of sharing the hashtag Islam is a cult lately because I'm worked up. I'm fed up. We've been seeing these and it's happening all over Europe right now, where people from these religious groups are using their religion in order to just massacre people. And enough is enough. I think that by being politically correct on this issue, we're essentially lying about what it is. And this religion thrives on chaos, and its religious leader, its cult leader from the origins, was known for creating wars and taking out people, and it is not a religion of peace. And that is all I will say about it. But I want to pay respect because I don't want to focus on the negative of them, but I want to just pay my respects to those 70 members. You guys, they're in glory now. They're face to face with Jesus. They were martyred, and they were taken out because of their faith. And this is what we see in our world today. We see Christians being deleted by radical religious extremists from other religions. And I think as Christians, we cannot stay silent and call it love. I think being loving is calling out the truth of what is going on, and it is not okay. And I think as Christians, and now I'm not saying fight back. It's kind of turn the other cheek. Within the scripture, Jesus says to turn the other cheek, but really what he's talking about is he's not saying to just let people abuse you. He's saying stand firm in your beliefs, stand firm in your foundation, and present to them your other cheek. And so I think we can speak the truth while still being loving. And I don't think we need to go on the offensive attack, but I think we need to stand strong and stand firm in our convictions and our foundation of our beliefs, in that what they are doing is wrong, and being okay with calling it wrong.
And in our conversation and our tense moment that we had, all I saw was the hashtag that you posted.
Yeah, because
I was trying to say is like I didn't get the whole picture of what you were trying to say by using that hashtag.
Right.
And I thought that this deserved more conversation and more mention to it, because I didn't know what you were talking about.
Yeah.
And then I scrolled up and I saw the article that someone posted, and I was like,
because it was in a direct response.
I saw it was a Newsweek article, and I've seen some preachers that we follow and stuff that have addressed the issue, and it's like, it's known in our circles, but and there's been beheadings in Africa and of Christians. I just used the word, but
I think that one's fine.
And it gets underreported. Yeah. And then you see unsympathetic people saying like, well, I mean, you guys did the Crusades and stuff. And it's just like...
Which even that lacks a historical understanding of what was actually going on.
Yeah. Right.
It was
and it's just all
retaliation and not an initiative.
Yeah. And it's just, I am fed up with it, and just... I don't think I've ever faced like real persecution before, even as a missionary, U.S. missionary. It's like,
not
haven't
like
been tested
life or death level.
Yeah, no, not life or death level. But speaking on behalf of my brothers and sisters in Christ, and in this case, they were there assembled in peaceful worship.
Yeah.
We know people who are from this country, who are Christian, who are believers.
Right.
And there's just no justification for what happened to them.
Yeah.
There's just not.
Yeah, and I want to say that I do understand where you were coming from with what you said to me, and I took it and I digested it overnight, and I agree. I think rather than just throwing up a hashtag, I think telling the story is more appropriate, and that's kind of what spawned me wanting to share this during the podcast today. And and I think what it comes down to is that we live in a really weird world when there's a party of people of a religious group who are parading around with the corpses of children that they took the life of and celebrating it And yet somehow in our American culture, we've found a way to create them to be the victim. And it is an injustice and it is disgusting. And anybody who defends this religious cult, to me, to my face, you're going to hear the full conversation, because I have spent time educating myself on this. I have read the Quran. I have read this religion as piece. I have studied it. And at some point, enough is enough. And now that's not to say that we don't have loving conversations with people who are Islamic. And I think that there is a very big difference between those two things. However, I cannot defend the actions of a party that does stuff like this and considers it a win for their religion.
Right.
This attack is considered a win in their religious organization. And that I just couldn't imagine celebrating something as heinous as this. And so anyway, all right. So I wanted to share that first because it was super heavy.
Yeah.
And then I want to get into kind of the more fun stuff of the day. But shout out, look up the information, click on the articles, give this story some traction and attention, share it on your feed, do those things. Because if our media isn't going to cover it, if they're going to waste their time talking about the 50th plane crash of the month that isn't even actually an anomaly, that is still short, rather than spending time on this, we've got to take our time and actually take initiative and share and show that these stories matter more to us. Yeah. Anyway, sorry, this is me on my tirade.
Saying, we are fired up about it, but taking action for us means educating other people about it.
Yes. And so look it up, check it out. It was a heinous act, and man,
and it wasn't the first, and it won't be the last. But yeah. Yeah.
I can't imagine being the surrounding community dealing with that and the fear that goes into something like that. And so, man, our prayers, our hearts are out to them.
Phil?
Yeah. So I was just going to say, to kind of, I guess, springboard off of that towards the main topic, I guess the discussion of, or maybe I should say the fact that it's controversial to say, X, Y, or Z is a cult, because it seems like there's kind of the big few religions. Do you think it's fair to say, as a Christian, that every other religion is a cult?
Well, and this is kind of where the tense conversation started too, because I was like, we know we're doing this episode, like, maybe don't make that hashtag just because we're doing this episode and just make it relevant. I don't know if that's how I would describe it.
Right.
I just would not describe it as a above board peaceful religion.
Right.
And obviously, we don't see it as the answer. We see Yahweh as the one true God.
I think there's enough non-Christians that call Christianity a cult that I don't think it's really off base or inappropriate to say that about others.
When non-Christians call Christianity a cult, we're just supposed to be like, okay,
you're supposed to be tolerant.
Yeah, no, you're totally right.
You're right. I'm in a cult. Oh my gosh, can't believe it. Why am I a Christian? It is a cult. But then when we do the same thing to other religions, all of a sudden we're being a religion.
Whoa! This is a historical, peaceful group of people that have a belief, and you're just bashing it. Like, what?
And then all of a sudden we're just like, so we're expected to just take it. Yeah. But then when we dish it out, all of a sudden we're being hateful. Yeah. And it's like our hate is
like another
our hate is in wanting to change the laws of our country through voting. That's hateful. But what these guys are doing, that's a religion of peace and love. And we got to do what we can to fight for the oppressed who are taking out children and parading their bodies through the streets. We've got it. They're oppressed. And bro, like,
there was the one.
Come on. Sorry. I'm so fired up. I got to take a second and calm down.
I know, that's fine. Like an actual off-air second.
No, okay. You're good. Okay. I'll just listen.
Okay.
There was the one, you might have to cut this, I don't know. The pastor, the preacher who was preaching from the pulpit and was advocating violence. What was that for?
I don't know.
What was he talking about? I just saw that on the news.
It was, that was actually a hyper left liberal leaning pastor.
Yep.
Who was preaching from the pulpit, taking action and fighting in the streets against MAGA supporters.
Okay.
And I'll be the first to say it. He should lose his credentials.
Yep.
And their church should lose their 501c3 because they are no longer acting as a religion. They're acting as a political institution at that point. And there are strict rules in order to have a 501c3, and being actively involved from the pulpit and saying things like that, you should lose those rights immediately. Call yourself a Christian or not, you should lose your rights. And that isn't just for the left. I think that for the right as well. Anytime a political part or anytime that you begin to pull now, okay. There's a difference between talking about issues that have become political and pushing politics. Does that make sense? So things like the abortion rights are an issue that has become political because of the stance that like Christians, conservative Christians have versus whatever. It is an issue that has become political, but standing at the pulpit saying that you have to vote for this party, and if you don't vote for this party, then blah, 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 that is now becoming politics and pushing politics. And those two things are not the same.
Mean, not just the politics. He went the extra mile and was advocating actual violence.
He should actually be put in jail for that, in my opinion.
Does not happen. Should not happen in Christianity.
It's insinuating violence and pushing for aggression. As the leader of the body of the church, you are pushing a church towards violence. And I think that as a pastor, we are, scripture tells us, so we'll be judged doubly. And I think he should be judged doubly for that. And he will be judged doubly for that on God's hand. But I think I think the law should get involved as well.
Also talking about, cults, that kind of thing.
That's a cult.
Does really lend towards that. Because, who else, Tanner? Who else might have pushed other people towards violence, pushed other people to commit violent acts?
My cult leader
specific
did.
Person,
not the cult I was in, but the one I'm going to share about. Oh my gosh!
Good save.
Thank you. My cult leader. We just watched an episode last night of how I escaped my cult, and so yeah.
Oh
well, if we're gonna call Christianity a cult, I was accused of being in a cult. When I got saved, but shout out, he knows who he is, and we'll probably have a conversation over the phone after this. But
you've already had the conversation.
We have, but I just wanted to give him a shout out anyway. But my cult leader, he reprimanded Peter for cutting off the ear of one of the Roman soldiers and told him to get behind him. He was like, live by the sword, die by the sword. And so that's my cult leader, I guess. We're not going to be
we're not going to forcefully delete lives.
Yeah, we're not going to forcefully delete people.
And lives, yeah.
But we will live sacrificially. But we're not going to delete ourselves, But anyway, so to transition a little bit, so if we're good with me calming down finally, I wanted to share a fun, this is totally not related. I didn't even tell you guys I was going to do this. So I want you to think about this. Not really, but we can make it a game.
I like games.
Phil.
Top 5 products or businesses that were started or owned by cults.
I have an idea of one.
Okay, go for it.
The Jim Baker buckets.
That's a good one, but
Dude.
I wouldn't technically.
Is it Baker or Bacher? His name is
Baker.
Baker.
I think technically that's a good one. It's not on my list. It's basically like a doomsday cult.
Doomsday, but isn't he part of a ministry though too?
Yeah, he brandishes it behind. And Jim Baker, he actually has some solid content. He just got a little too weird with his end time theology and just ran with it.
Starts. Okay.
I agree.
That's how it starts.
I agree.
The cult I'm going to share about. So
nice. Okay, what about you? Any big guesses? Products or companies?
I have another one.
I feel like I just saw one, but I can't. I got nothing.
The My Pillow dude freaks me out.
Yeah, he got like radically saved. He's just a weird dude.
He sells crosses now too.
Apple.
Bro, well, then you can't tell me Apple ain't evil.
Right. Now, that starts a different conversation because things like VW, didn't they literally equip the Mustache Man's party vehicles during World War II?
Kind of like owned.
I think they are a product of
But so's NASA. So
okay, so
it's also that.
Yeah,
technically speaking, correct.
Hey, why is there a red dot on my forehead?
I feel something warm on my neck all of a sudden. Okay, so no, these ones are.
I'm out of guesses.
Anybody else smell radiation?
These ones are a little more fun, I think, than the direction you guys are going.
Okay.
This is just a list I found that I thought was really interesting.
Send it.
Okay, Celestial Seasonings. Okay, you know the tea that you drink when you're pregnant.
No.
And you got the sleepy time tea and all of those.
I don't.
You're not even drinking them. Yeah,
not
but
when I'm pregnant. Like I just. Oh no.
Yeah.
No way.
Yeah, they were founded by a cult called the Urantia book. Who they as this cult, they claimed that this book that started their cult was written by racist aliens arguing for eugenics, and he became the president of the Urantia Foundation to spread that word.
Nice.
So the Sleepy Time Bear,
Wow,
is a cult leader. Number 2, this one actually low key blew my mind.
okay.
The Washington Post.
What?
Have you ever heard of the Moonies?
No.
Okay, so it's this weird Christian church thing that was, and I loosely use the word Christian.
Quotation marks.
Just because you call yourself a Christian doesn't make you a Christian, okay?
What?
They were founded in Korea by Sun Myung Moon, who claimed
Nice pronunciation.
that they were the second coming of Christ, and then have these mass weddings and all this other stuff, and they came to America and purchased the Washington Times.
The Washington
Post?
Times or Post?
The Washington, did I say Post?
You said Washington
Times.
Post.
The Washington Times.
You
Brother,
swung
brother.
big
The
out of
counter,
gate.
which the
Yeah.
Washington Times is almost as big as the Washington Post, I feel
really?
like. Yeah. But yeah. And then
They're all behind paywalls for me anymore,
yeah,
so I'm like,
yeah,
I
for
don't read
real.
them either.
Yeah.
this one's a little bit older. If you've ever been to your grandma's house and she has fancy, really intricately engraved silverware, there's a good chance that it was produced by Oneida. And Oneida, for 30 years, created and produced like all of the fancy silver, like actual silverware in America. And it was founded by a communist polygamous religious cult called Oneida Community.
Wow.
Yeah. This one, we don't have any around here, but I have heard about this, number 2, the Yellow Deli. Have you heard of that one? Mm-mm. So it's a chain of restaurants that has been really growing with, especially in like California and stuff like that, with like a little more left leaning, but
The name sounds so racist.
but it's, well, I think it is owned by originally Asians.
No one's more racist
But anyway,
towards Asians than
this
Asians.
it's a hippie sandwich shop that uses all natural, like hyper natural ingredients, and all of the workers are people in the cult, and so the cults are ran and organized and established, and there's been issues with anti-Semitism, child labor, and slavery going on within the cult.
So don't eat from the deli.
The 12 tribes.
Don't
is
use
the
the
name of it.
silverware.
Yeah.
And don't drink the tea.
The cake
And don't
is
read
a
the
lie.
news.
And don't read the news.
Oh, I forgot to put it on the list, but
shout out the
Newsweek.
nuts.
You know, Newsweek was founded by occultists as
Oh,
well.
great.
And all this is, I just want to
Cultists,
remind
not
everybody,
occultists, correct?
cult members, leaders. I just want to remind everybody, everything we say on this podcast is hypothetical and just for fun. This is a comedy podcast. So everything is allegedly.
Hi, NSA agent. I'm talking to you.
And then the last one is the Hydra Pack.
Oh.
Hydra Pack, which is a current company, is owned by a cult, but fun fact, this company has been around for a while. And in 1986, they used to produce the O-rings, and the O-ring failure that caused the Challenger disaster in 1986 was produced by Hydra Pack,
Bruh. What?
this cult, and they still exist. And now
So my
they make a lot
NASA
of
theory is holding a little more water.
Also, we don't want to be sponsored by any of these.
yeah, please do not reach out unless you're going to give us a lot of
So
money.
you can send us money,
No,
though.
what?
Doesn't mean we're going to say nice things.
say-
Or
I think my cutoff point, I'm just going to say is, 8 figures ish. I can be bought out for this podcast. So if all of a sudden
start
next
your own
week,
podcast, Courtney.
hey, yeah, if next week all of a sudden I have a new pickup and we're talking about the Yellow Deli and how delicious their food is, hit me up. I might be able to
Hey,
give you a
that might
small
not
loan.
be a lie. I don't know. It could be good food.
Guys, you can't do this to me.
Okay.
I'm too
can.
pregnant
Okay.
for that. No.
And then so that was my top 5 list of
There's
companies.
just a giant picture of a woman's face on your laptop.
She's a vegan. He's a vegan.
The eyes, Chico, they never
Is
lie.
it a guy or is this a dude or a girl?
I don't know.
Jack is the guy.
Well,
I would have lost money.
Welcome to 2025.
I would have lost money. That is an older picture.
but it is a vegan, so might as well be a girl. Veganism.
He said what he said. Courtney.
This episode is so for sure getting shadow banned. Anyway, I joke. I don't. Do you want me to get into it? I could go ahead and share. I wasn't planning on it.
I just looked over and there was a giant face looking at you.
Yeah.
So
It's vegan.
The top half of a face.
It's a vegan cultist.
there are so many vegan cults.
Speaking
What
over
is
the
up with that?
This one is called the Zizians. Yeah.
Saw stuff on
Yeah,
them.
makes so
Oh
much
my
sense.
god.
We just happened to be watching the news
Scroll
and it
back
popped
up,
up, and they've actually, so this vegan cult has been linked to like a lot of purposeful deletions of other people,
Like all over.
Well, but
like
vegans are non-violent.
rampant.
They're not
No less than 6
like, they're
across
not-
the U.S.
They're not like all like confined in one compound, just
No,
like
from
drinking their own Kool-Aid. They have a network, right?
from Pennsylvania to California, this is a vegan cult network. Like, this is like a legit cult. Like, this isn't like it started out of a church and it got to like 30 members and then they went crazy and drank Kool-Aid. No, this is like it is across the US vegan cult. So if anybody ever talks to you about Zizian,
That's such a fun
Zizianism.
name. That's such a fun name. for a cult.
That's probably what they said.
But yeah, so one of these people apparently even like infiltrated like NASA and got an internship in NASA and stuff.
Okay, I didn't know. I didn't know any of the other things you were going to be talking about when I said what I said.
Yeah, for
That's
real.
the third
For
time
real.
since
For
I
real.
said something that they brought up.
Ziz, it is a okay. So
Loud.
okay.
KKK. Okay, let's bring them up
This is
too.
amazing. So Jack Lasota, a transgender woman, is the leader of the group. So I don't know.
I would not have lost money.
I don't know.
I would not have lost money.
So if it's transgender woman, then he was born a male, right?
I would
Is that how
lost
that
money.
terminology works?
Yeah.
I don't
Right?
know. I
so a
don't know.
transgender woman is born a man, and then transgender man would be born a
Well, that
woman.
depends on who's writing the article. Because if I write the article,
Right?
if I write the
'cause
article and I'm
you're
talking
just calling
about
him a man and
That's
woman.
the whole thing. I don't think we can be right on this, guys.
But that's
Well, no.
no,
According to
I'm
other
trying to
perspectives.
legitimately just trying to get the
I know.
terminology correct.
biologically,
I-
we don't know.
Lasota, Ziz started this vegan cult.
Is that who that is?
Ziz, yeah. So that person there is Ziz.
That is.
And so their themes are veganism, total avoidance of any animal product or byproduct. And guess what their other key religious tenet is? There's only one other one.
Non-smoking.
What's your guess?
That's just a throwback to
No alcohol.
No alcohol?
the occultism.
Yeah,
The,
oh,
the
yeah,
little
yeah.
thing.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
someone cracked
So-
up when I was just like, and I threw in non-smoking, and then they were like, "That was funny."
That's funny.
Anyways, go ahead.
I'll give the listener a second. Think about it. What do you think the other tenet is? It's anarchism. Their other tenet of their
Always.
religion is we don't eat animals or animal byproducts, and at all times choose anarchy.
Wow.
We
So-
don't believe in harming animals, but
Freedom.
screw humans.
My question is, like, how does someone get involved in Zizianism? Like, this transgender woman comes up to you and is like, hey, I think we should stop eating cows. And I'm like, see, and this is why I can never fall for a cult like
I-
this, because I love steak too much.
Have
I would never join a cult because I love steak.
the
See?
answer.
Phil, are you hearing me?
Meth. No, straight up though, drugs. Like,
Oh yeah, drugs
bet-
are always.
I,
are- not always,
I
but-
think that's a huge part of the entry. Like, I think it's like, hey, you want to come hang out with me and my little group of goons over here? Come here. And then it's like, here, drink this herbal tea.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, oh, that was laced with amphetamines or DMT. And now I'm on a 10-year acid trip and I'm stuck in a
Yeah.
cult and I have 8 kids with 9 different fathers.
Like,
And
hey,
here we go.
do you want some sleepy time tea? Or you're getting ready to go to bed?
That's,
and join my cult.
I bet you, that is how so many people end up in that
I wouldn't be
stuff.
surprised. But yeah, so let's go to Courtney. You want to share about yours?
Yeah, I actually did not finish the episode on this cold, so I'm like
dang.
looking forward to finishing it, to be honest. So I won't spoil the ending, guys, because I don't even know what the ending is. I don't know how this all falls apart. I don't know when to share it. Okay, so this is from the show called The Curious Case of. I was watching it on Max, HBO Max.
Shout out Donnie.
Yeah, thank you for your login. So I can watch this.
Donnie?
Yeah.
What up, Donnie?
I don't think he listens to the
probably
show,
not.
so he'll never hear
I
this.
think there's
but
only one season
I'll
of
tell him to
it,
shout him
and this
out.
was the finale, guys, okay? So this is the curious case of the Doomsday Cat Cult.
I think I watched this one burn up in my last job.
Okay, so I don't know what that means.
I don't either.
Okay.
Oh, have I not told this story to you guys?
I don't think so.
The cat house?
Oh, we'll save it. Save it.
But okay. I mean, a lot of us know like a crazy cat lady.
Yeah.
This is a crazy cat cult lady, okay?
I'm telling you.
You know, okay.
I'm telling you.
Well, we'll see.
Okay.
We'll see. I'll get to the end.
Yeah,
and
you
then
tell me.
compare your notes.
You tell
with
me,
mine.
and then I'll tell you.
So her name was, I don't know if she made it out of it alive or is still alive or not, but her name is Cheryl Walker Ruthven. So this whole ministry of hers is based out of Washington because, of course, like the Pacific Northwest, which is a beautiful country, isn't, crazy enough. That's
all
like
the rain.
that's like where everything goes on. Yeah,
Yeah,
I must be.
PNW into Idaho is just
It's nuts.
even
So-
Montana. I mean,
But
Far
here's
Cry
the
5,
thing,
man.
though. She started
Canada.
out as like a somewhat like sane sounding Pentecostal style preacher.
They always do.
They always do. Yes, very fire and brimstone.
Shocker.
I mean, and this is in like the late 90s, early 2000s, so it's like power to women in the pulpit and stuff like that. Yeah, that kind of gets out of hand a little bit too. So she actually didn't grow up in church or anything like that. She got involved in church with her, I think, then husband that she had just married in 1997. And then like 2001, I think, is when she branched off and started her own ministry with, she had just studied under the female pastor who was there. And there's her ex-husband who's like, I don't know if there was ever a relationship that went on between the two of them. But anyways, so there's that. She ends up divorcing her husband. And then a big part of her platform and what she would teach is just how much her ex-husband needed to not be alive anymore. And would make it would have like all night prayer sessions with the church about it, have the church lifted up in prayer, come up with ideas
Of how to
delete.
take him out of this world. Yep. And they were just all fine with this, I guess. And okay, and this episode does not go chronologically either, so I'm just gonna touch on like some of the content that went on. So this was one of the main, I guess probably one of the main tenets of the faith. Anyways, started out by just like telling the inner members and stuff. But yeah, they would have their prayer meetings and they would just be praying for his going away.
So weird.
I know, because in order for Cheryl to go on and do what God was calling her to do as a prophet, this guy, and I think his name was Mark, needs to get out of the way.
Poor Mark, dog.
And Mark,
do?
He moved on. He like had more kids. Like, okay. Anyways, so then this new guy named Rick gets involved in the ministry, right?
Oh, Rick. Oh, no.
And they actually interviewed him too. And he's like, I was a worldly guy by any standards. Like I cussed, I drank, I didn't fit into the mold and stuff. But she like set her sights on him. And then boom, they were in a relationship. She was love bombing him like crazy.
Narcissism.
Whenever they were together, because multiple congregants that she, male and female, that she was together with. But don't worry, guys, it was all God. It was all God. But whenever they were together, he says that he would see visions. And so that's how he knew that she was legit, right? So she eventually convinces him to buy in, I don't know how this is not going to get censored.
Can we define
a
the
pew-
shit?
we might just
a
have to
pew-pew?
own.
A pew-pew?
We might have to just
Specifically-
own that this episode might be
Specifically the
shadow banned.
one that the media doesn't like.
A grok?
Oh, the
The Arma?
yeah.
Light.
I was saying, yeah. I I was like, how can I say this in a funny way? And then I was like, oh yeah, because the actual term, I can actually just say the real name of it.
Yes, Armalite.
Yeah,
probably won't get tagged because we don't do our
Nobody
research
knows
on what it
that
actually
is.
Armalite rifle. Take the first
15.
letters.
Armalite
Exactly.
Riffle 14+1.
And then she starts going on little drives with her new boyfriend, and they end up parked outside of her ex-husband's house. And then she's like,
what are
like
the chances?
sitting there, like explaining the layout of the house, the blueprints, the property, everything like that. And then one time he's just, I think he was out there by himself with this new tool of his that she bought for him. And has the ex-husband in his sights. And then he later says he knows that he was manipulated, obviously, and stuff. But that the only thing that actually stopped him, it must have been God. So
Wow.
he did not go through with it. He went back and told her, so woman, you're a prophet, so how come, if you were saying that this needed to happen so badly, how come God just worked through me to spare him? And I'm done. So he
Smart to wait until he was holding the
Yeah.
Arkansas
That dude is intelligent.
And then I think that was just like a little altercation that they had between them because ex-husband didn't know about this for years. Didn't report it, like was unreported to the police. So I don't exactly know how that was. The dude was on the dock.
Can you imagine hearing about that years later?
And being like,
like,
yeah, you were right
God.
there
You
in my
almost-
crosshairs.
You almost perished.
Dude. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut
in front
you
of
off.
my family home. I know,
Bro.
right? So,
Just doing his gardening.
and so that also to top it all off, guys, the 3 kids that ex-husband had with Cheryl, all involved in the cult.
Yeah.
Yeah. And she would
There's a saying.
with her, she would, because they ended up when they divorced, did 50-50 custody. Never really went well with him. How about that? And she just slowly kind of took control of the kids and stuff.
Yep.
Later found out that they were like all sitting around the dinner table, and then mom's like, okay, let's come up with ideas on how to take care of your dad. And let's pray about this too.
Bro.
Because mom needs to fulfill her destiny through God.
Patricidal prayers.
Yeah, so she didn't give this up for a while.
Wow.
I don't know how this ends. I mean, obviously the ex-husband is like,
Still talking.
They did this big reveal and stuff, and like, because they were interviewing his current wife about it, and then they pan over and they show that he's still alive.
You're how far into this episode?
Dude, this was all in like the first 20 minutes.
Dude, what the crap?
It escalated quickly. Well, and then they
this.
switch back. Like I said, they don't necessarily go chronologically. They switch back and forth between people's stories.
Yeah.
And so
Right.
there's also this LGBTQ woman who like knew she was from a young age and stuff, but then she always suppressed that side of herself.
Yeah,
But anyways,
they always do.
And then
Yeah.
and then she was on the worship team, and then all of a sudden, Cheryl wanted to pray with her, and then she's like, let's form a covenant together. We're not going to be married, but this is of God. We're like soul sisters. And then that turned into more. I haven't even gotten to the cats yet, guys.
I was going to say, there's been no mention of felines at this point.
Okay, yeah, but no, I mean, they started off like Pentecostal Christian stuff. Oh my gosh, and the way that they portray like, the first church that she went to, they were speaking in tongues.
Oh, no.
And there were people casting out demons. Okay, but the voices that they include of like people speaking in tongues are like stupid on purpose. And I'm like,
Is that the cats?
and they're like, this contributed to the forming of a cult leader. And I'm like, okay, guys, like
The cats did or the tongues
no, the
did?
speaking in tongues and the casting out demons. And I'm like, that's quite the slant. Okay.
No.
I think it was more so the fact that she was suppressing some feelings and
That
some
she
homicidal rage and some and then once we
She had
started
a
going from Christian message
narcissistic
and they have
personality
clips of
disorder.
her sermons, and it's like, oh, like we love the person, but we just don't like what's the sin and the spirits that are acting inside. And she's super like spiritual realm, and that's how it goes into doomsday and stuff like that, but we just don't love the spirits that are acting in them. And I'm
Get
like,
to the cats.
and then it's like, then she starts like opening
Need to know.
up. She's always got to share something new, some new tenet. It's okay, guys. Now we're gonna delve into Catholic mythicism. now we're gonna study.
There's Catholic mythicism.
That's what they said. That's the type.
Oh,
I didn't look
okay.
into it, so I'm assuming it's a branch
Wait.
off, and it's not just
Is it
Catholicism.
Catholic or Catholic?
Catholic mysticism.
Cataholic. Okay, but like the gay woman who was sharing she was sharing it from inside of her house, and there's like the cat like wall things, like all the shelves and stuff.
Oh,
in the
yeah,
background. She
yeah.
still has cats after all of this. Yeah, after all the weirdness, and then she stuck around for the cats part.
I hate cats.
So here we go. Okay.
I like cats.
She was the actual the cat. She was the true cat believer.
One of them. Okay, I'm getting to that.
Okay.
All right. So we start off with Christianity, right? Which is never quite right because she didn't have the training for it, but she's always got to bring something new. So first it's Catholic mysticism. Then we go into, okay, guys, we're going to be delving into Egyptian alchemy. Now paganism, then Wiccan stuff, and then all the Mother Earth junk, then crystals and chakras, and just it all works together as one. It all works together as one, guys. And so I'm kind of wondering if the cat stuff didn't come from the Egyptian stuff, because Egyptians worship cats. But anyways, that did eventually turn into that. She just rolled this out just all of a sudden, like, guys, like, so cats are vessels for the divine. And so we need to go to the shelters where these cats are going to be euthanized. And we need to adopt all of these cats, and we're going to split them up between the congregation. No one's slacking. If I have more cats than you, that's not right. And it started out just in the community, but then they spread out to all of Washington. She forced her congregants, her members, to take time off of work, go to shelters, bring home these cats, and these cats better be well treated. Doesn't matter what they do to your house. I mean, so it was. Each member of this congregation had between 15 to 30 cats in their house.
I am trying to imagine explaining why to your boss that you need to take off work on Tuesday. What's the reason, Susan?
Dude.
I gotta go to a shelter and adopt some spirit vessel cats.
But
I'll be back on Wednesday. Don't worry.
Also, guys, don't forget, these are vessels for the divine. So that's a major issue. So they come before your spouse, before your children, before everything else. You must take care of these cats. And something about eventually they're going to turn into humans or something like that. But yeah, obviously, like, they have some specific purpose. And I have not reached the end of this part because they just opened up this Pandora's box.
We're just glazing over the fact that cats just take care of themselves. You don't take care of cats. You
Okay,
just
but no.
let them in your house.
That's the reason I like cats.
Well,
Because
guys,
when we leave
you get 15
on
to
trips,
30 cats in a house.
Oh yeah, no, I like having like a cat or two cats, because then when you leave, you just put a ton of food and water out, and then make sure their litter box is clean, and like they're self-sufficient your whole trip. You don't come home to like a destroyed house. Like they had food. Yep. They're good.
Yeah, I know.
If they get hungry, they'll find a mouse.
For real.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Man, I'm just thinking like as a like if I'm going to church and then all of a sudden my pastor is like, you got, now obviously it'd be a slow burn into this, but like all of a sudden one day they're like,
what?
You have to go get all of the cats from all of the, and I would just be like, cool, you guys have fun with that. I'm not.
Okay.
And picture, she's a stereotypical looking blonde woman with that early 2000s short haircut. Exactly how you think it would look too.
Okay.
Oh, and when she preaches, her voice is just all over the place. She does not sound, and oh my gosh, they have audio of her sermon. Oh, I don't even know.
I'm upset.
I don't know the ending, guys.
I don't even need.
If we
I don't
were
need to know
doing
the
pod,
ending.
I would be upstairs watching this right now.
I want to know the beginning, because like
Her voice is crazy. Okay.
If I talk too loudly to a student, they leave the ministry, and like these
or if you don't talk to them enough. But
maybe
anyway.
you need to be telling them to go adopt cats.
I'm gonna start tonight. We're gonna start in our own little cat cult. See if we can grow this ministry.
Kitty cat cult.
I'm trying to wrap this up now. Okay?
I'm sorry. There's so much.
This is amazing.
Oh wait, no.
Oh, this is so good.
So, she at some point accused her first husband of physical abuse, which did not happen and stuff.
Shocker.
She ended up, guys, she had connections like in the communities. So she was very, cult leader tactics about public humiliation. If I find out amongst the members that you've been saying something or doing something unfaithful or like talking bad about me, or you're going to leave, the next sermon you're going to be publicly humiliated from the pulpit, right? But it's not just that. All of a sudden, boom, wow, you suddenly just lost your job. Boom. All of a sudden, your other relationships in your life that don't even have anything to do with the cult are just going down the drain. And then, so she just had so much sway somehow in the community, and she just like knew people and had connections. So anyways, she, at one point, one of the former members was sharing that, she had a pitcher of water sitting on the pulpit. She poured salt into it and then said that this is going to be cleansing to you. So everyone come up and drink out of this pitcher. And he was like, and that just made me think of Jim Jones. Yeah. And how Jim Jones had quote unquote practice runs like that, where he would test the faithfulness of his followers before the real deal actually happened. And
they said
he's
that on
like,
the thing?
That's what it felt like. And that's when I was like, oh, yeah, the dude who was interviewed, who partook, and there's several different members who were being interviewed, and they're like, yeah, I drank and everything like that. Nothing happened, at least on that one. I don't know if there's any further.
That's crazy.
I don't think so. But everyone kind of just went up and did it and drank unreservedly and just no trust issues, apparently. Everyone was fine with it. She would have,
glad I have
at
trust issues.
At least one homosexual relationship that I heard within the doc so far, and then would turn around the next Sunday, like after that, and then preach against homosexuality, and then all, and then incorporating all the other religions and stuff like that, and then tearing families apart. Like there was one husband who's being interviewed, and he's like, we were expecting our income tax check in the mail, and then all of a sudden, like I noticed it wasn't missing, it hadn't come in. Well, my wife went and took it without my permission and cashed it and then put it into a new bank account. And then suddenly I was being given the ultimatum of you will give all of your financial power over to me, or I'm going to leave with the children. And then come to find out she was going to give financial autonomy and everything over to Cheryl. So there's like the finances part, the whole give me all your money. We're like, that was going on too. Eventually she started adding her own blood to the communion drink, and they all partook in that too.
Nope.
The last thing I saw was that the church together went to see the Da Vinci Code, and then all of a sudden she started, she was just really entranced by the Da Vinci Code, and then all of a sudden she started speaking like, I'm Mary Magdalene. So that's where we're headed with that, guys. Once again, that's The Curious Case of, on at least HBO Max. I think if you have premium subscriptions with some other platforms, it's on there too. The Curious Case of the Doomsday Cat Cult.
All right, so we got vegan, we got crazy cat, we got sleepy time tea. Phil, hit us with your best.
I don't even care anymore. I can't compete with the kitty cat cult. Are you kidding me?
Give us your cults, and then we'll bust into my.
I just went with like obscure. Like I don't think I can beat your obscurity. I just, that was my goal. And so what I came up with, I found two cults I'd never heard of. One is called Eckankar.
Spell it.
Eckankar.
Eckankar.
And basically, it is just like. So basically, it's human divine connection cult, and it's just such a weird freaking. My standard of weird has been absolutely blown away, and I can't recover from this, but I'm going to try. I'm just gonna read you the freaking. Okay, so they're like, I don't know, mantra or slogan or whatever is the path of spiritual freedom. Experience the most sacred part of yourself, and they're like. Just the top bit is, you are soul, an eternal creative being, unlimited, divine. Does something inside you long to know life's purpose, to make sense of the world around you? Eckankar is an active, individual, creative, spiritual practice, a companion and roadmap for your journey home to the heights of self-discovery and God discovery and beyond. Come along and discover the most secret part of yourself. The key to spiritual freedom lies within you.
Wow.
And it's basically all just talking about okay, so their like main tenet or principle or whatever is HU, HU, like the Mongolian throat metal band. The sound of soul, and it's basically the HU is like your connection to the divine, and it's like the thread that runs through everything in the universe, including you and me.
I've heard that with like Om and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
And
It's
wow.
something. And so then they have like masters, Master X, ECK,
my gosh.
the spiritual teachers from an ancient lineage who walk among us today. And they've mastered the spiritual laws of life, embodying them in thought, word, and deed.
Wow.
Teachers of the highest order. These are the Ek Masters.
Wow.
You know what that sounds like to me? Sounds like demons.
Dude, it's so weird.
Yeah.
Okay, this is my
Anything to
favorite.
normalize themselves.
This is the funniest. This is one of the funniest thing I've ever seen. The last thing on their page before like all the little hyperlinks.
So still active.
Oh yeah,
Oh my gosh.
this is their website.
Oh
I'm on
my
their
gosh.
website. This
Oh
is
my
their
gosh.
website. There's a quote at the end of the page. It says, "When I found Ekankar, my heart said home." The quote is by Michigan.
What?
Dude, read it for yourself.
So that's what happened in Michigan.
This is the most hilarious thing to me. Like this is the funniest cult. Like,
Wow.
Home.
it's so random. I just don't know. I don't have anything else on it. There's no more
my
information.
gosh.
Yeah, find your connection with the universe by following the Ek Master.
Sounds like demons.
With the Epicac.
Sounds like demons.
Okay.
Just picture these spiritual masters like imbued with all the wisdom of the ancestors, and then it's just like some nerdy dude who just like doesn't just like can't even oh my god.
It's a widow we called
Sounds so
Ekankar.
dumb. Oh my goodness.
Why can't you pronounce it, Phil? It's a widow Ekankar.
Okay, so that's the funny one. This one's a little more like known, I think, but still not very known. Which holy crap! I just noticed their symbol.
Looks like a swastika star of
Ooh.
David.
A
there's-
swar of David.
There's
That's
a swastika.
There's definite that.
Those are two
Like you
things
can't
that
have
don't-
more opposing
they
symbols.
they don't work.
So this is
embracing the contradiction.
this is from
my Lord.
a group known as Raelism, which I believe they're meant to be based off of Israel, is what the guy that like started it like took claim of. Isn't it interesting how many of these, like almost all of them, derive themselves from Christianity?
Yeah. Oh,
like,
yeah. Oh,
like
yeah.
this is what
No,
we're going to
common theme.
identify with and like take bits and pieces from, which, so
To be
this
fair,
is,
there's a lot of Eastern ones too, like Eastern.
this is a,
But still.
this is a UFO religion,
Yeah.
which holy smoke, there are a lot of those. I can't,
There are
it
a lot of
blows
those.
my mind how
All
many.
hail Zorp.
This one came out of France. The founder's name was Claude Vorilhon, now known as Rael.
Rail.
Rael.
R-A-E with an umlaut L.
Oh,
So
hail
he is
Rail.
Rael.
Yeah, but is he?
But
Okay. But anyway, this one started in the 70s. So this one's been around for a little bit and is still going from what I understand. So once again, borrowing from Christianity, they teach that an extraterrestrial species, of course, known as the Elohim,
Wow.
heard that word before, isn't that unique and original?
gods.
So they're, interestingly enough, considering the wording, an atheistic religion. But anyway, So they claim that throughout history, the Elohim have created 40 Elohim human hybrids who have served as prophets preparing humanity for news about their origins.
Nephilim.
Guess who's included among those are the Buddha, Jesus, and Muhammad. And Rael was the 40th and final prophet.
Lucky him, man. I bet there's some significance with him being the final one, right?
Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
But anyway, so yeah, they I don't know. There's they seem to think that we're kind of close to the end of things, but they're less about, or it seems like they're less about ending themselves along with it, more about trying to survive it.
Sure.
But yeah, so Rael claims that he's been contacted by the Elohim. He wrote a book. That's neat. They're still going. That's about
Oh my goodness.
Dude, there's so... I started off reading on Scientology, but I just didn't want to even give that any attention.
I was going to do Scientology originally.
And
then I found this, and I'm pretty excited. But
yeah.
Yeah, I was going to do that, and then I was like, oh, dude, cat cult for the wind.
Yeah.
That's
I saw it in a
unbeatable.
reel.
It's unbeatable for entertainment value.
For real.
However, it is time.
So, it is time. So, I totally meant to bring this up earlier, but I was thinking about it, and I was like, how far have we gone that now people who don't believe in conspiracy theories have a nickname called normies?
Normies.
And
I just call them sheeple.
Normies, okay, well, that works too, but they have a nickname. And normies are trying to convince everyone that aliens now exist because the government told us. And conspiracy theorists are now trying to convince the normies that no, they don't.
Oh my God.
We have
That actually
really entered a strange time. I think about that regularly.
Anyway.
The fact that the people that believe in UFOs are now the normal
normies.
people.
And the people who believe that it's our government or
It's
demons
a distraction
or something else.
Or
it names something else are the conspiracy theorists.
Oh my gosh.
Anyway.
You know when you find a truth in the Bible or you feel like God tells you something and it's just simple and it's true and it's powerful and it stays with you. That is not like this. It's just
No,
chaos
yeah,
and confusion.
it's
And let's hop around religions and stuff like that. So all that to say, to people who don't agree with Christianity and stuff, I guess my cult's just stronger than yours. So
Exactly.
have a
So
wish.
speaking of chaos, we're just going to we're just moving on, bud. It's too late.
I have a wish.
Okay, what's your wish?
My wish.
I had a perfect transaction and you're ruining it. I just
I'm
want you to know.
sorry. I'm not really. I wish for every person who was publicly humiliated and criticized for talking about UFOs in the 60s, 70s, and 80s, I want to have a reaction for every one of them. I want a video of all of them reacting to the government
Yeah.
telling the world that UFOs are real. I just want, I told you! You all laughed at me!
Exactly. But, so, speaking of the 60s and chaos,
it's always the 60s, man.
I came across a book that is titled Chaos, Charles Manson, the CIA, and the Secret History of the 60s. And
See, I didn't know your position. I enhanced it.
exactly. You did good. High five. Real high
No,
five.
you don't get it
Real
now.
high five.
No.
Real high
Tanner
five.
dropped
I
his
don't
hand
care.
and It looked funny. He dropped his hand before Phil.
You
Real
can
high
hold
five.
it there. Hey,
There,
Elon,
I got it back.
chill.
High five. We're good. All right. So this is something for me that has been interesting. I've been intrigued by this because I love psychology, and I first heard about Charles Manson and all of that stuff at a decently young age. I think I was 16, and we had to do a book report. And I chose to do my book report on
You were not that dude.
On
had
Helter Skelter.
I had a couple guys in my high school who were just a little too interested in Charles Manson.
I wasn't
And it was just
interested in no, and I anything psychological. I also I loved. We had class books
You
where we
also
had to
weren't a
do
Christian back then, so I'm judging. I'm sorry.
We had to do the class books of One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest and stuff
Yeah.
like that, and I loved those books because there is something to it. It's psychology, man. It's the human brain.
Yeah.
Helter Skelter, it's a book, and if you didn't know what Helter Skelter is, the prosecutor on the case wrote the book Helter Skelter, in which he tried to create a narrative explaining why Charles Manson did what he did. Okay, he basically wrote this book, and basically just from start to finish, just tried to go through the court case, the proceedings, all that stuff, and create this narrative. Okay. And I'm not going to get into that quite yet because there is something interesting about it. But before I get into the book Helter Skelter, I did read it. I did do a book report on it. And when I read it, the author of that was Vincent Bugliosi, and he was the prosecuting lawyer. But I remember reading it, and I just remember thinking that, like, this just doesn't add up. It doesn't make sense to me. And there's been this itch in the back of my head, and I didn't really realize how big of an itch there was until I came across this book. Okay. So we're going to create a little bit of groundwork. Okay. So you have to, in order to understand the Manson family cult, and in order to understand what was going on, you can't look at it from a perspective of 2025 because the world back then was different. However, I feel like for the first time since like 2020, ever since then, I feel like we have a little bit better idea of what the life was like in the 60s. But for us younger people, we really don't know. Okay. Yeah. So in the 60s, to give you an idea, just kind of plant the groundwork. There was the anti-war movement going on. Yeah. Basically criticizing the Vietnam War. There was the ongoing Cold War with Russia and the threats of nuclear war and all that stuff. And basically kind of the fallout, so to say, pun not really intended, but the fallout of Hiroshima and all that stuff, and the fear of it, and
that was terrible placement.
That was amazing placement. But there was kind of some of that fallout from that, and the fear of that, and all of that was going on. And then on top of that, there was the black activism going on, and kind of the fight for equality with all of that stuff is kind of going on. And the government began to get afraid that there was going to be a big uprising between the anti-war, the civil rights movement, the black activism, and the Black Panthers and that kind of stuff. And so the CIA created a organization called Operation Chaos, capitals CHAOS, in order to kind of combat it. Okay.
Was it an acronym?
Yes.
Yeah.
I do not know what it stood for. And then the FBI came up with one as well called COINTELPRO, all one word, COINTELPRO. And they were designed, these organizations that they created, okay, they were designed to disable and neutralize kind of like left-leaning, like counter-idolized radical extremism, basically. Okay, and so the government basically started to think, okay, this is a threat to our national security. And so they began kind of counter-infiltrating and stuff like that, okay? Meanwhile, MKUltra is still alive and well at this point in time, okay? We've talked about MKUltra very briefly. I want to do a full episode on MKUltra. We do. Maybe that's what we should do next week. MKUltra. All right, next week, MKUltra. Teasing it here.
Taking notes.
Okay, so then you kind of go back to Manson. So the official narrative, the Helter Skelter narrative, was that Manson was upset that he didn't get a record deal. And then he went to the house in order of where this record producer used to live, but he didn't know that the record producer had moved. And they came across the celebrities that they did find and then murked them all and stabbed. And that was that's the official narrative that we have. That's what we know. Yeah. And then we have the Helter Skelter theory, which is the book that basically tried to say that underneath all of that Manson was actually even more intelligent than just, I'm going to create this, this I'm going to get revenge kind of scenario. And he was actually intentionally trying to incite the race war. And so by doing so, what he was doing was they made these professional murking things and then tagged it as though it was the black activists at the time and trying to like create more tension that was already there. That's kind of the bigger, the Helter Skelter story. The Helter Skelter story is kind of the more believed conspiracy theory that exists. It's not proven one way or the other, but it's kind of the believed conspiracy theory.
Didn't it come from the Beatles song? And that's what they based their
I think so.
Their ideology off of, and why they called it that is it was their belief of there was going to be something big going down.
Yes. Yeah. And where that comes from is that Manson, it is known that he did kind of talk about the Helter Skelter to his followers.
Like some it was doomsday stuff.
Yeah. In his cult that he had, the followers he did preach it. He did talk about it. The upcoming race wars and stuff like that, and they had to be prepared and all of that. Now, Bugliosi, the good dude who wrote the Helter Skelter book, he straight up, following everything that happened, straight up said that he basically, so let me get this straight just so I'm perfect on this. After the convictions of all of Manson and his cult, Bugliosi, the author, actually told two journalists, so he actually said this on record, that he didn't believe Manson truly believed in Helter Skelter, that he was way too smart for that, but that he had used Helter Skelter to get his followers to do what he needed done. Okay. So then the official narrative then would be that he just was trying to get retaliation.
Like personal revenge. And so he brainwashed all these people into the Helter Skelter thing so that he could get revenge on the producer who refused to sign a record deal. But ironically, he was trying to create civil unrest.
And that's kind of the Helter Skelter or whatever.
Yeah.
And he was a talented musician. He wasn't like amazing. If you've ever listened to his music, he sounds like everyday 60s hippie rock artist that's wanting to get famous, basically. Really nothing significant, nothing crazy about his music or anything like that. But the problem is that I have is if he's that smart, why would he do all of that for just kind of like petty revenge? You know what I mean? And if he's that smart and he's trying to get revenge on his producer, why wouldn't he stop them when he realized, oh, the producer doesn't live here anymore. Let's go to find where the producer lives. You know what I mean?
Was it his producer, the producer that rejected him?
The producer that rejected him.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah. And then the other problem I have with the Helter Skelter theory is that the guy who wrote the book, as an attorney, saw this as an opportunity to make some money and to launch his political career. And so even before the court case began, he had his co-author in the room as one of his assistants, writing down all of the details the whole time so that he could publish this book, Helter Skelter. So he already had it in mind he was going to be writing this book before the court proceedings even began.
Wow.
So he kind of so I have a problem with somebody who's trying to get rich off of a scenario. You know what I mean? And for me, and going back and now looking and thinking back to when I did read Helter Skelter.
I don't think documentation for the sake of was really that much of a thing back then.
Right. And the person is Kurt Gentry, and he was in the front row every single day working on this from the beginning. And so this is documented. This isn't conspiracy theory at this point. We know this.
Can't even be mad because, get your bag.
Yeah, he did it, and it worked.
Get your bag. Good
it
for
worked.
him. That's smart. That's smart.
And
I ain't saying I like it, but it's smart.
Yeah. So
gotta respect the hustle.
Here is where now all of that is just to lay the foundation of the Helter Skelter, the cult, the Manson family cult, and all that stuff. And I guess another foundational piece is they heavily use drugs and sex and all of these other things in order to Manson did all of these things in order to kind of brainwash these people. Yeah, that's kind of the foundational common knowledge ends there, and this is where we begin start finding some Freedom of Information Act stuff that is interesting. So the author of the book Chaos, so the author of the book Chaos, he got access to Manson's parole file after years worth of Freedom of Information Act requests to the Federal Bureau of Prisons, the U.S. Parole Commission, and just trying to find all this information. Eventually, what he found was that the parole officers were extremely lenient with Manson and his followers. And so lenient that Manson was getting to the point where the crimes he was committing would be enough to be put in prison for a while. And he'd get put out on parole. And then he would regularly have to go and meet with his parole officer. His parole officer kept recommending basically that he's good to go and all this other stuff. The parole officer would then look the other way while Manson was actively recruiting underage women to follow him in his cult. And so all this is happening and the parole officer knows about it. This is all Freedom of Information Act. They wrote it down and would just be and so when it came to the official profile, not only would the parole officer turn a blind eye, but they would actually purposefully fight to keep him free. And at one point, they wrote into their superiors just asking that, straight up saying Manson's good to go. There's no reason that he's going to commit any more crimes. We don't really need to supervise him. And the government was what? Okay. The active, yeah. So Then we have Susan Atkins, which was one of the Manson followers, one of the worst ones.
Yep.
She was one of the main Tate unalivers, whatever.
Nope, that's not good either.
Tate
Deletioners,
ghosters, whatever.
Murkers.
Yes, murkers. And so her parole officer straight up recommended that all of her stuff just basically be wiped clean after she had committed all kinds of crimes and violated her probation repeatedly. And the cases go before a judge and they go to sentence her, and they just sentence her to parole. She's like doing violent crimes.
Yeah.
And they just parole. We're good. This is one of those situations where your first question is this a situation where the law just got it wrong repeatedly? In the situation, I've got an ex-family member who has done repeated crimes.
Yeah.
And I cannot believe that he is still free after all of the things he's done. And it starts to make you wonder if there was a breakdown in the justice system. So is it a breakdown in the justice system or justice system, or is there something more there? Okay, I'm going to leave you on that note, okay?
Is this the edge?
Now going back to Chaos and Counter Pro. So Chaos was an operation started by Richard Helms, the director of the CIA, around 1967. Basically, it was designed specifically to neutralize the Black Panthers. This movement more broadly was kind of the anti-war, trying to like squash all of that in the Bay Area and across the United States. And this was done in the knowledge of Lyndon B. Johnson, who we know has... We'll just leave it at that. Listen to previous episodes. I mentioned Lyndon B. Johnson a few different times. But anyway, so Lyndon B. Johnson, well known about this. Okay. And then FBI Director J. Edgar Hoover, who we also know things about and we've talked about in previous episodes, created Council Pro. And so Council Pro existed in the 40s and 50s, specifically was designed to counter against like the KKK. But then it went dormant and then they revived it in 67 around the same time as Chaos in order to try to target these radical left-wing groups and purposely trying to get them to commit crimes so that they could then be shown as being unruly and whatever. Okay. At one point, Counter Pro specifically was targeting the Black Panthers in LA, and they infiltrated a group called Satan's Slaves. So Counter Pro infiltrated
Great name.
The group called Satan's Slaves, who were also jockeying for power in the area, and infiltrated the Panthers as well, got both parties to basically go and counter-protest a protest of the other group, convinced them both that the group was going to protest and they needed to go counter-protest, and convinced both groups that someone from the other group was like basically threatening to take them out. So both groups show up at this event thinking the other group is going to be hostile, immediately become hostile with each other, and two people end up being murked because of this situation that was in Freedom of Information Act created by these government organizations. Okay.
Okay. That sounds about right.
So that's where we are. Okay.
I'm from the government and I'm here to help.
And at the same time, the celebrities at the time, very similar to today, the celebrities at the time were becoming very, very vocal and supporting supporting the race war and the protesting the Vietnam War at the same time.
Yeah.
So they were very vocal, very trying to generate protests, trying to generate the confusion, chaos, and they even created a group called the White Panthers, which was basically made up of white celebrities, who were backing the Black Panthers' agendas and stuff like that. So those organizations were created, and they basically wanted to show that those organizations weren't just people who were, young kids who were harmless, smoking pot and doing all this other stuff, but instead that these groups are vicious. They're out that they're out to murk people, that they're unruly and dangerous and all this other stuff, to try to get the general public to shy away from them. So they're basically trying to get white people to fear black people during the same period, which LBJ, we now know in some of the MLK files that have been released, you can put two and two together. Mm-hmm. There was some very intentional chess going on. We'll put it that way at this point in time. Okay. So then the question is, was Manson a tool or was he a product? Here is where we start to find the thing that scratched the itch. I'm going to just kind of read some of this from the notes I took just to try to get all the facts straight, so that this is based off of like freedom of information and like factual information. Okay. And I will let you decide what that means. Okay. And as the listener, I'll let you decide what this means. We're not going to decide this for you. So a man named Reeve Whitson appears throughout all of this. It's not known if he was a CIA agent, but or working with Chaos, but it is known that he was a CIA agent. We don't know for sure if he was working with Chaos.
He was CIA, may or may not have been Chaos.
As far as I remember. So he was working with the police very closely from day one. And the day that the bodies were discovered at the Tate house, he had already been to the house. He went by an alias called Walter Kern. Okay.
Yes.
And okay. So he went by Walter Kern. And Robert Helder was the police investigator.
Okay.
And he called Reeve Whitson Walter Kern. Okay. That was what the Reeve Whitson said his name was to the police handler. Okay. Said his name was Walter Kern. So the police handler, or the police guy, called him Walter Kern. And it wasn't, it was weird because every time that Robert Helder made a discovery or found a new witness or did something else, he would say that it seemed like everywhere they turned, Kern had already been there. So it's like Kern was this groupie investigator that just had all of the information and was one step ahead of the police in the discovery process. And it started to seem like Kern might have actually been maybe a part of the Manson cult.
Right.
And so the investigator's like, this doesn't make a whole lot of sense. I don't know if he's a groupie. I don't know if he's an investigator, private investigator, or if there's something ulterior. And so his theory is that possibly he might have been a member of Chaos. And so Whitson, this author finds out that Whitson is actually Kern, because on Whitson's last breath, as he's passing away, he tells all of his friends and family and close friends that he had been involved in the operation against the left-wing movement. So he lets it be known on his on his deathbed. And he said that he had infiltrated the Manson family and that he had been involved with them prior to the Tate murkings. And he said that his biggest regret was that he felt like he might have been able to prevent those murkings, but he wasn't allowed to, or he decided not to. And so that he was even at the crime scenes before investigators showed up looking at all of the evidence and stuff like that. So Tom O'Neill, the author of the Chaos book that I was reading, did a Freedom of Information request. He did it to every federal agency in the U.S. And the CIA responded, and this is the only people who did respond. They responded that they could neither confirm nor deny that he was a part of their organization.
It's my favorite response.
Yes.
It's classic
it's
CIA.
Basically saying he was a part of our organization, but we're not going to
but I can't say that because I signed an NDA with blood.
So Whitson, we can, and now again, listener, you can decide for yourself. Was Whitson a member of the CIA Chaos? Most likely. Now this brings us to MKUltra. MKUltra was first discovered in 1976, but it had been running for 30 years at the time. And at this time, they had dropped the bomb that it had been conducted by the CIA using drugs, sensory deprivation, hypnotism, and all these other things in order to control people, to almost make them become sleeper cell operatives. Okay, so that's basically the gist, and we'll do a deep dive next week on MKUltra. I am so excited. I cannot wait. So they worked with psychiatrists, scientists, and when they finally came out, they only named 8 people that they worked with, but there's a lot of theories and trails and threads that point to a much larger network of involvement from scientists and psychologists.
I'm stunned.
One of these people who likely was involved was Dr. Lewis Jolly West. So West was a psychiatrist out of the Air Force. And in the 1950s, he had been at Lackland Air Force Base, which he served as the head of psychiatry at Lackland Air Force Base. Okay. Then after that, he then started a psychiatry department at the University of Oklahoma. He ran it until 1969. And then he was recruited by UCLA to run the psychology department in their neuroscience center. Okay. So West told the New York Times that they had asked him to be a part of the program, but he supposedly and allegedly refused and told them that it was not safe to use drugs on people. So then he went to the grave literally denying that he had ever been a part of MKUltra or had used LSD on humans. But it had been discovered that he had been at the same place at the same time as the Manson when Manson basically became who he was. When Manson went from being the shy, quiet kid to the outgoing cult leader, he was at the same place at the same time as Manson, basically. And nobody's really been able to prove West's involvement in MKUltra, but it's been rumored by numerous people. Okay. So what the author found was that he contacted UCLA after West had passed away, and he requested access to West's papers. And over the course of a summer, reading through all of his papers, he found that there were letters between West and Dr. Sidney Gottlieb, who was the person who ran MKUltra. Gottlieb, I don't know if that's how you pronounce it. I'll
don't care.
Check that out, but Gottlieb. So there were numerous letters between Sidney Gottlieb, who ran MKUltra, and Dr. West. In fact, those letters started when MKUltra started in 1950 and ran throughout. And in fact, West was there, and from those letters, he was the main researcher for MKUltra. So not only was West involved, according to his own letters between him and Gottlieb, he was the main researcher. Okay. West had actually been funded by the CIA for 20 years to do these experiments on patients and peoples. So he opened up a safe house in Haight-Ashbury in 1967, around the exact same time that Manson emerged there. And the Haight-Ashbury Clinic, where Manson regularly visited, West also regularly visited and recruited subjects for his research. This is known.
That's interesting.
It was at the height of the Ashbury Free Clinic where Manson was actually directed to go for his weekly meetings with his parole officer. The same parole officer who seemed to give him a free pass every time he did something dumb. The same PO that we were talking about who refused to revoke Manson's parole despite his escalating and continued escalating criminality. And so Smith, who was running this place, was actually doing amphetamine research at this facility.
Who could have guessed?
So this free clinic, the same time as Manson's parole officer and running his parole, is offering free services. And rather than supervising it, he was basically allowing Manson to come in and whatever. I'll let you use your imagination on that because we don't have proof. We just have evidence. So despite the claims that this free clinic, the Haight-Ashbury Clinic, despite the claims that there were never any government grants, never any funding directly from the government, the papers directly say that him and Rogers, who ran it, were completely lying, and it was completely funded by the CIA. And they used it as a cover for their research. It was once called the laboratory disguised as a hippie crash pad by a CIA analyst. So another psychiatrist there straight up told the author of this book, oh yeah, we saw Charlie there every day. So according to him, there was no way that Jolly West didn't know who Manson was. And remember, Jolly West was the lead, one of the lead, basically through the papers, through his correspondence with Gottlieb. So there's no way that Jolly West didn't know who Manson was, given that Manson was going to the clinic every day, at least 2 or 3 times a week, with his harem, with his girls, to get quote-unquote treatment for STDs, pregnancies, and all of that stuff. Manson didn't just wander into this clinic. He was regularly going there. So then now the question is this, and this is where I want to leave as open-ended, and I'll have to edit that pretty heavily. But
depending on what your question is, I may have a follow-up question.
Okay.
That's also worth thinking about.
Yes. So the question is, and regularly people, even the defense prosecutor, and I've studied Manson enough to know that Manson was a very intelligent person. Very intelligent. So the question is, was Manson MKUltra'd in order to do all of the things that he did?
Right.
Or was Manson so smart that the MKUltra didn't work on him? Or maybe it did work, but maybe not as good as they wanted it to.
Yeah.
And he then used the techniques of the MKUltra in order to basically do the same thing to the people in his cult.
Right.
And so the people in his cult were basically vicariously, well, that wouldn't be the right word, but basically they were basically MKUltra'd by Manson, who were learning
MKUltra
these.
subject.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Who would have been a failed MK. Or was he successfully MKUltra'd? And part of his MKUltra was MKUltraing other people. Because I can't...
I like how we've turned this into a verb.
Yes. Because you almost can't look at the Tate murkings and all of the deaths that occurred there and think that the CIA intended that to go as planned. But at the same time, it's also clear that the CIA utilized it for exactly what they were going for. So either that was the happiest accident that ever happened to the CIA, or the CIA had a direct hand in all of that.
Yeah.
But for me personally, were you going to say you had a follow-up question?
Well, you go ahead and finish your thought first.
For me personally, it's hard to not draw the conclusion that Manson was in some way, shape, or form MKUltra'd.
Yeah.
It's hard to deny that at this point.
So, perfect transition into my final question. Manson has been... There's speculation as to whether he was just straight crazy or faking it, was just super intelligent and used the crazy facade to get attention or whatever.
Or there were certain triggers, maybe.
Also possible. So my question is, assuming that he was successfully MKUltra, do you think that he remained in a state? Do you think they made him crazy and left him that way, and that's why he's appeared to be so crazy like since then, like in like prison interviews and stuff like that? Do you think he was actually like tricked into being in that state of mind? Do you think he was either released from that or like just came out of it naturally and just kept up the crazy facade? Or do you think that it was all just fake, that he was just fake and crazy?
Right. I don't know for sure.
Yeah.
But knowing what I do know about MKUltra is that most of the people who are MKUltra don't know they're MKUltra.
Right.
So my theory would be that he was just an extremely intelligent person, and so there were weird side effects of it.
Yeah.
But like listening to interviews of his, it's like you're having this very normal conversation with somebody who seems maybe they're a little off their rocker and whatever.
Right.
And then all of a sudden there's just a phrase or a saying, or they ask a question that just completely unravels him. Yeah. And it's like a different person responds.
Yeah.
And I always thought how weird it was, because it was like completely normal hour-long interview, and then all of a sudden they talk about, Helter Skelter or something, and then it's like crazy comes out.
Yeah.
Or he's going through like his parole hearings, like because he's been up to a chance to get, well, he's no longer with us, but he would have chances to get out on parole, and he would go through these interviews and just be nailing them.
Yeah.
And then right at the end, just snap.
Okay.
And very clearly couldn't get out on parole because he was too crazy.
Yeah. So that was a step down the conspiracy theory level ladder.
Yeah.
Let me take a step up. What is like the most critical or like vulnerable, a lot of sirens today. What's the most vulnerable part of any conspiracy? It's the loose end, the people that like actually did the thing, the operative, right? So what's the sketchiest way that can be taken care of? Just deleting them, right? Is it like, wouldn't it be so much safer for the people running the conspiracy to just leave that person, by all appearances, alive and in control of everything, but just have like a section of their psyche walled off, and if you poke at that part, crazy.
Yeah.
What if that's the triggers, as you call it, like are programmed in.
Right.
What if that was, what if, imagine that, what ifs.
Right.
But what if they programmed it into where it's like, okay, he has all this information about how this went down. We can't let it get out of him.
Right.
We're going to lock it away.
Yeah.
And we're going to set up all these things that you can't get into.
Yeah.
And if you try, it's like a friggin' failsafe in a security system. Like, you put in the wrong passcode 3 times on your iPhone. Now it's locked for an hour.
Right.
But instead of just shutting down, it just goes haywire.
Right. For real. Well, and it's possible that his immediate group were, I mean, it's possible that they were all MKUltra.
Right.
And what better way than to have everybody pointing the fingers at everybody else, and then, like you said, have the main guy. It's kind of the Alex Jones theory.
Yeah.
It's make them just crazy enough that people completely ignore everything they say.
Right.
There was an interview with, and I was trying to pull it up, but I can't find it right off the top of my head, or right off a quick search, where Manson is having a conversation with the interviewers, and they're talking about all of the like mass murkers running around, and he's like, you guys are making them unbelievable. You've got to make them believable, because if you make them unbelievable, then you don't have a story. And so this is a dude who is a supposed straight cray-cray. Mm-hmm. And he's having a very intelligent conversation with news media, advising them to make their stories of these mass murkers more believable to sell more newspapers.
Yeah.
And for real, those sell better than the crazy stories, because the crazy stories are like, oh, it's just a crazy person.
Yeah.
What scares people is when the guy next door does it.
Yeah.
And
When
so
it's
this
close
is
enough to real.
Yeah. And so this is a crazy person having this conversation. It's like, how do you have this intelligence and be that crazy, you know?
Yeah.
Anyway, so I leave you listener with this. Sometimes the truth is really worth discovering. And in this case, I don't know if we will ever know the truth.
Yeah.
I really don't. After looking into it and seeing the facts that I presented today, and then the hypotheticals we get into, because we don't know if he was MKUltra.
Right.
He genuinely might have just been crazy, taking advantage of a clinic that just happened to have MKUltra money.
Yeah.
But we know for sure that he regularly, and his family, the whole cult, regularly visited one of the facilities that MKUltra used for their projects.
And the terrifying part is that if you're correct, then it was by design and it was perfectly successful.
Yep.
Like,
Yeah.
they didn't want us to know the truth, and now we never will.
Then the scarier, and even the scarier part, not even scarier, just as scary part is how many other people.
We're not doing it.
And so next week, join us as we get a little bit deeper into MKUltra and
I lied.
And
we're
maybe
doing it.
some other government programs that are hard to get truth from. See, next week's episode is probably gonna be short because there's like nothing available. But with that, thank you guys for liking, subscribing. You guys are amazing, and don't get MKUltra. We love you. Look for the truth, find the truth, the real truth. And okay, bye.
In the ancient days of giants, when the earth was wild and free, a creature roamed the valleys, cloaked in mystery. Is he born of angels' blood and man, a Nephilim so tall, or a shadow of the fallen, yet heeding the Maker's call? He's a biblically accurate Bigfoot, with a lineage from the skies. Not a myth or legend, but a truth that never dies. Is he a remnant of the Nephilim, a titan standing tall? Or does he have the word of God upon him, the last to hear the call?